Good morning. Cheryl here from Garden in the Borough. Today we're going to do a little bit of gardening outside because actually we have pretty decent weather. It was heat wave for the past couple weeks, maybe 6 or 7 days over 90, lots of humidity, very uncomfortable to be outside. So I haven't gotten a lot of gardening done, but I'm going to today. And the first thing I'm going to do this morning is work in the pool area. So we have a pretty large pool and we keep it open from April till October. So the gardens here have like a long season they need to look good through. And we have a bunch of containers that I plant up. And in about the middle of the summer, I like to look and see if any of them need refreshing or just some attention. Sometimes they need to be cut back and just sort of make an assessment. Hi, Georgia. Going forward about what has to happen with them. And so in particular, there's a few that aren't looking good and need a new plan. And I'm going to look at that and try and figure out where we go from here. All right, we'll see you out there. So here's where we're going to be working today. And I'm going to pan around and you can see the garden back there and the one in the corner. And then there's a little garden space right there that needs a little bit of attention. All right, this container right here is one of several that we use for umbrella stands. So I'll tell you quickly how we made them. So it's a pretty decent sized pot, and we got some Quikrete, and which is just like a cement that you pour in and you pour water on. People use it a lot for fence post setting. So you just pour it in the bottom, and then you add water, and before it sets up, you put in a piece of PVC piping of the diameter of your umbrella. So I'm not sure what this is, maybe 2 inches or so. Bill kind of painted them on the outside black so you don't see them once the umbrella's in. This is just white PVC. So anyway, you put that in there and then you let that all set up and you put the soil in on top. So you leave yourself maybe 6 inches or so for the soil. And always you have to remember you have to dig new drainage holes because the soil is going to be sitting on top of cement and you want to make sure that the flowers don't drown in there. So anyway, this container, mixed success because I love the colors of it. I love this curly chartreuse coleus here. I'm of a mixed opinion about the sun patience just because I love when they look like this. I don't love when they look like this. But, you just have to keep deadheading them, which is more of a chore than I usually leave for myself in the pool containers, but that's okay. The big problem with this one is it got an infestation of something. I'm going to think it might be there's a beetle that just attacks morning glory species. And I think that might have been what it was. I'm not going to say for sure because I never saw it. It seems to have abated. All this damage was done earlier, and you can see the new leaves are in great shape. So I just got to come in and clean this up and get rid of some of that. But other than that, this container is in pretty good shape. So I'm pretty happy with that. In this garden, I need to cut back this massive salvia. There's actually a white one behind it too that needs to be cut back. The problem is this thing just never stops blooming. So today is going to be a good day to do it because of the rain and the overcast. This thing is usually covered in bees. So I'll be able to get it all cut back without risking my life doing so. So cut right back to the ground, and it's going to throw out a whole new flush and start all over again. And there's actually a rose in here that's getting a little buried, so the rose will be happy when that happens. The other thing I have to do is deal with this clematis. This is one this is Hagley hybrid, and it 100% every year looks like this, which a lot of them do as the season goes on. And I think it's just certain ones. So I think it has to do with wilt or another fungal disease, and some are more susceptible than others. So I'm either going to take all the dead leaves off one by one, which will be a long and boring chore, or I could cut it right back to the ground. This one doesn't have all that interesting of a seed head. It's just sort of meh, meh. So maybe I'll cut it right down to the ground. Remains to be seen. We'll see. There's a little bit of weeding in here. You can see some trumpet vine has snuck in here near that dahlia that's being protected. There's a few weeds. So anyway, that's this garden. Everything else looks all right. Just a few dead leaves here and there and some weeding to take care of. Hi again, Georgia. I guess we're going to have company this whole video because Georgia's just following me around. Any of you who know anything about corgis know they're called Velcro dogs for good reason. They just have to be where you are all the time. So this is sort of a same copy of the same planter with the addition of, I had some extra nasturtium seedlings from a project I was doing out front. And so I tucked them into the sides. No bug damage on this one at all, which is a little bit surprising, but also makes me very happy. Well, actually not none, but just very little. So that makes me happy. So this one doesn't need too much attention, just a little bit of deadheading here and there and cleaning up. Not bad at all. And I hope this nasturtium gets going because the color of the flowers, that maroon, is just, let me see if I can get these leaves out of the way. It's just beautiful. And I'm hoping it's going to trail down for the rest of the season, and that's going to look spectacular. So I've already started doing some cutting back in this garden. I've already started taking down all the ground cover geranium, which fills out all in here, and it will all fill back in. I know for a couple weeks it looks pretty bad, but it fills right back out, so I'm not worried about that. This, my goodness, this just is finishing blooming, this butterfly weed. Georgia, Georgia. And I love it when it's in flower, but my goodness, when the flowers fall off, it is just amazing. And right behind it, actually a plant that I'm pretty pleased with this year is Calycanthus floridus athens. That's a yellow flowered Calycanthus. And this shrub has not been doing well. It's been in here for about 4 years. And this is the first year that it really looks happy. And it looks like it might actually fill out to be a shrub. So go Calycanthus floridus. Oh, we got some lilies behind there that are about to bloom. Try and plant things that are really tall against this fence because this garden looks lost. You see the fence from very close up, so it's not a distant thing. So short things just kind of get lost. So problems here. Obviously the lilies look great. There was a foxtail lily in here that didn't make the winter. That should be right in front of those tall lilies right there. And there's some daylily behind those lilies that is really not happy. And those are very tall and they're not doing well. And the worst part is that all the dahlias, I planted 6 David Howard dahlias, which are tall and orange, and you can see the nubs of them right there. So the rabbits ate them all down to the ground. So that was my plan for late summer, was that these dahlias were going to be up against the fence. I already had my branches ready to stake them, and I don't know if they're going to come back. This salvia should get really tall. I'm hoping it does. It should get to be about maybe 6 feet by the end of the summer. So I'm hoping it gets itself going. I think it's needed some heat and it hasn't had any. Then I just need to come in here and pull out any sort of yellowing foliage and, you know, clean up just the messy parts of this garden. And that's a pretty quick thing. So we'll go over here and you can see more dahlias. For some reason, they left 3 leaves on that one. And so that one's coming back. I'm not sure if the ones that they left no leaves are going to come back. We'll see. These lilies are about to bloom over here. So things in here don't look bad. We'll hope by the end of the next couple weeks that you can see there's another salvia tucked in there. And I hope that I'm going to clear that baptisia off of it that's leaning on it to give it more sun. I already cut back the clematis that was blooming on here. It was Georgia. It was all the way up to the top, and then once it finished blooming, it started to look pretty rangy, so I cut it back. And again, within the next couple weeks, it should, Georgia, it should get some new growth on it. I take a little quick break over here to tell Georgia to stop barking at the UPS man. So anyway, I'm hoping that this clematis is gonna start throwing up some new growth pretty soon. Here's one of the dahlias, surprisingly, that has sort of rebounded. And I'm hoping, again, maybe it's just going to be later in the season. That's all. Sometimes you can't do anything about it. All in all, this garden is not in bad shape. This one has some lavender and some stackies. That's humolo growing. That always looks fantastic. The iris looks beautiful, but right now it could use a little bit of trimming up. And it all looks good till you get to over here. And I have to cut this lady's mantle back so it will throw out some fresh new growth. And the rabbits ate that hibiscus down to the ground, but it's coming back. And the sage looks pretty good, and the salvia looks pretty good. So basically just a little bit of tidying in here. I'm going to pull off all those hosta leaves. And you can't believe when you do a hosta, and I'll take a little video afterward, when you look at a hosta and it has leaves that look like that, and you just spend 5 minutes taking off the dead stuff, it's like a whole new plant. So I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to cut back this spiderwort that is pretty much blooming, done blooming for the season. You can see our little, these are usually hidden by the spiderwort the rabbits ate. But we have like a blockade underneath there because we will get bunny families under there and the dogs go crazy. So just a little bit of tidying up in this garden, not too bad. So that won't take too long. So that might be where I start, because then you get one project done and you feel accomplished, and it makes you want to go on to the next one. All right, off we go. All right, last pool area chore I'm going to be doing is coming in, and I got to get a ladder for this, and deadheading this and taking off any of the leaves that got fried when it was so hot and dry. So I started down the bottom. It's always worse down the bottom because it's so close to the patio, and a lot of the leaves get really fried from the reflective heat. But I mean, they're everywhere. And also it starts to encroach on this window. So this is going to get a little haircut. I'm just going to go get a ladder, and that's going to be my last pool chore of the day. Let me back out so you can see where this is. So this is the area that needs attention the most. So this area where our pool equipment is right behind our garage, and it has these containers from a company called Maine, M-A-Y-N-E, and they're self-watering, and they're actually really sturdy. They're a number of years old and still in really great shape. And they hold, for the most part, sedum throughout the year. Sedum, this is John Creech, I think, the one that's in the bottom of these. And then Panicum virginianum northwind, which is a switchgrass. And the switchgrass has been in here for maybe 4 years. And every year it provides a screen for the pool equipment from the sides of the pool area. So not so much from the pool because you can't see it because there's screens here, but from the access ways. So when you look in, you can kind of see it. But when the switchgrass is doing what it's supposed to be doing, which is being like 3 or 4 feet tall and then swaying in the wind and having beautiful flowers late in the season, it looks pretty fantastic. And also I add in canna, which I save year to year. And I don't know the name of this canna. It was given to me by a friend. So I came out in the spring. Clearly the switchgrass suffered through winter. You can see it's one blade here. This one has just a few. This one is in better shape, but still not great. None in the third one. And then in the last one, there's just a few sprigs coming up too. So we need to take all that out and put it somewhere in the garden. And I'm running out of time. You have to plant grasses, warm season grasses here early in the season, or they will not make the winter. So I got to get those into the ground, so they need to come out of these containers. The canna, I think what happened is how cold it was. We had a really, really cold spring, and we didn't get some nice sunshine and heat until very late. So I think it just needs to catch up. By now it should be at least 3 feet tall and be flowering, and it's not. So the sunflowers I'm leaving, they are coming out, but I wanted to wait till they were blooming, which is pretty soon, because I'm going to cut them and bring them in the house. And then as soon as I cut the flowers off, I'll take the sunflowers. The chipmunks planted. Georgia came out to keep us company today. So I'll take out all the sunflowers as soon as they bloom, so I can just have the flowers. But then I have to figure out what's going in these containers, and right now I don't have a plan yet. So any suggestions, I'm open to hear them. It has to be pretty tall. Other than that, full sun and pretty tall. All right, moving on. Hello, Mr. Beetle. So while cleaning out the sweet potato vine, looking for whoever was causing the damage, I think we found him. And now we can confirm. Oh, watch out. Yes, am I gardening barefoot? Yes, the answer is yes. So I'm going to give him a squish and then look up whatever the next appropriate steps are. Okay. All right. So I cut a lot of this back, and I think the management I'm going to go with is just coming in here and looking for either beetles or larvae every couple days until we have this under control. Knowing what it is now makes it a little bit easier. While I was dealing with that, or right after I dealt with that, I cut back the hydrangea, took off all the dead flowers, all the foliage that wasn't looking good, filled this whole entire bucket. Didn't fall off the ladder, so pretty happy with myself about that. Cleared the window a tiny little bit. So, job done. Okay, I decided when I started working in this garden that I would try instead to just take off all the dead leaves on this clematis, just because it's in such a prominent place in the garden, and I know it will shoot back out, but it will take a little while. And actually most years I have a second vine already started in there, like a morning glory or some sort of annual vine. But this year, I don't know, I guess I forgot. So there isn't one there, although I have seen some morning glory from last year popping up here and there from the seeds. Let me just, if I can, there's one right there. And I've seen a few, here's one that's about to bloom. And those are just dropped from the vine that was growing in here last year. So I'm just going to, just leave it, and I'm going to see over the next week if more of them start to turn brown, then I'll reassess. But for now, I think it's okay, and I'm not going to cut it back. So meanwhile, while I've been killing time doing other things, I haven't cut this salvia down, and now the sun's coming out and there have been bees all over it. So this is going to be a chore probably for another day, but that's okay. All right, so I finished cleaning up in here, cut back all the spiderwort, actually divided and moved around the irises, so they just need to settle in and then they'll be good. And I did clean up all the leaves on that hosta, and it looks so much better. And I weeded, and again, this garden looks pretty good for this time of year. Okie dokie, this was a huge chore. So there's some of the panicum that we took out, and the holes I have to still dig in there. So what I used was my soil knife, and Bill came out and he sort of put pressure, leverage underneath the grass, and then I used this serrated soil knife to cut around the roots. So there's a lot of roots still in there, which I'm going to attack now and get it down to just soil. So we got all the panicum out of this one, and this one, and this one, and this one. And here it is. And now I'm just going to divide it and clean it up and see if I can put it in the garden. I want to mention that we had an almost snake moment. For those of you who know me, you know I am terrified of snakes. And this piece of plastic wire came flying out of one of the containers when I flicked my soil knife, and I had a moment, but I'm okay. All right, off to divide and plant. All right. So for those of you who have heard me speak and you wonder what I look like when I'm gardening, this is it. Not fancy, pretty bad actually. And now I'm sweaty to boot. But I put shoes on. I was barefoot for most of the adventure we just did, and then realized if we were going to be using the shovel, I should have some shoes on. And also, the whole snake moment kind of freaked me out. So this is what I use always, even in my huge miscanthus. I use, sometimes they call this a hori knife, but it's a soil knife, and this thing can cut through some pretty substantial. So if you look at this panicum, you know, we didn't get all that much. We actually cut it off of its roots mostly, which is fine. It's going to bounce back. We left a few long ones. And so I'm just going to slice through it because there's a lot of some kind of weed in here, and I want to get as much soil out of it as possible. So I'm going to divide it into sections using this knife, and you just got to get it in there, and then you can start to sort of pry it and break it into pieces. She says, while she's not breaking it into pieces. You can also look behind me if you don't want to watch me do this and see my beautiful escargot begonia that's right there on the plant stand. That's one of my favorite plants in the whole entire universe. All right, so there we go. So I think I'm going to break this into a number of small pieces instead of trying to plant it as one big one, because like I said, I'm trying to get as much soil out of it as possible. I don't even know what this weed is. I thought it was wood sorrel, but it's not. And there's something else in there too. And I don't want to introduce that to a garden. So after I get these pieces all broken up, even if I end up planting them back together in the same hole, I'm going to wash the roots of this as much as I can after I get all the, so that piece is pretty good because it's got almost no dirt on it for now. And I'll just give that a wash. And then I'm going to do that to all these pieces, anything that I can salvage, anything that looked pretty good. And then I'm going to plant them into the garden right behind me. So that's my big plan. We'll see. Right now the weather's holding, hasn't been raining anymore. But if I can get them all down into pieces like this, wash all the soil off so I'm not transporting whatever this weed is, and then I'll get it all into the garden when I'm done. All right, I'm going to go do it. All right, so here we are where I think I'm going to stick this grass. So this garden is about to look amazingly beautiful. Oh, neighbor's firing something up over there. With all this monarda, two different kinds that grow in here. But we had some loss over here of, I can't remember what was here, maybe coneflowers that didn't come back. And then the mallow got eaten by the rabbits. And then here's the saddest story of this garden is I think we have aster yellows on the phlox that's here. So I'm going to have to rip all of this phlox out, which is fine. I'm going to cut it back for now, but that's a project not for today, but I do need to get it out of here before it spreads throughout the garden. So I'm going to plant it sort of in and around where this phlox is. And oh, I was doing some cleaning over there and made a big mess. I'm not sure I'll put any over there because where I was cleaning, I like that to be sort of a hidden pathway so I can get in here and weed. But my plan is to put what I can salvage in this area of the garden over here where there's not much going on. So here's the bucket, and the ones in the bottom there in water were the ones that were in the weedy container, and the ones that are on the top were in the sedum, the container with the sedum. But they all got a root wash. Not so much on the sedum one. The ones on the that had the weed in it got really, really soaked and pulled apart. So that's the pieces, and I'm going to, keep pulling down and separating them into salvageable pieces and plant them in this garden, and then we'll come back after that. Okay, so I ended up taking out some of that aster and putting the panicum in there, and you can't really see them because I cut all the foliage off. Sometimes things have to look worse before they get better. So there's one that I left the foliage. There's one that I did not. There's a bunch in here. So there's one that I left the foliage, if you can see in there. So anyway, that's it. I got it done. Oh, let's look at bee balm again. So pretty. So now I have this huge pile out here, and I'll remind you all that anything diseased or that you suspect have a disease has to go into the trash or get burned, not the compost. So I have to do that, and then I have to clean up my big tarp mess I made over there where I was dividing. While we're assessing pool containers, just want to think about this one, and sort of, I guess if I had to rate it on a scale of 1, I didn't achieve my goal at all, and 10, it was a resounding success, I'd give it probably a 6. I was hoping to flank this pedestal we got on Facebook Marketplace and that frame that we've used in a bunch of different places in the garden. Um, and I was hoping to, oh, here goes Mr. Flamingo. Oh. I was hoping to create this sort of, eye-catching spot. This is right on the side of our pool. You saw the float just go by. And I planted a coral-colored petunia. There's also some caliabroca in there and black and blue salvia. And then the container on top of the pedestal has some lantana, lobelia. There's lobelia in one of the containers on the bottom too. And, I'm not big on symmetry in the garden. I don't usually do too many things that have any sort of symmetry, whether it's putting something on either side of one of my fence openings or on either side of my door. Everywhere in the garden is different. There's no place where anything is mirrored on the sides of pathways or anything. And I'm never I'm never really happy if I've ever tried it, because just like looking at these two containers, you can see the salvia both started at the same time. They were both tiny little plants I got in March from Digging Dog. um, one has filled out beautifully, the other one not so much. On one side, the caliabroca has filled out in the back, and on the other side, the petunia has just taken over. So it doesn't really have like balance, I guess. And I think I might add um, one more tall thing to the back to sort of offset the fact that it's not very symmetrical, and see if that helps. The problem being, when I went to the nurseries all around us, everybody's annuals look absolutely dreadful. There is no place that sells right now big, healthy, beautiful annuals. I think so many nurseries struggled with the really cold springtime, and nothing really got off on a good foot. So I'm waiting for things to get some new places to get some new inventory in, and then maybe I'll find the right thing for something tall in the back of the two planters that are on the ground, and see if that will help sort of balance it out. But we'll see. If I find the right thing, I think it will look I'll bring it up from a 6 to maybe an 8 or a 9. I actually love the color. It's just that it just isn't the 100% the look I'm going for just yet, but it'll get there. I went to, boy, it's hot out. I went to this nursery that I like in Lunenburg, Mass. It's called Central Mass Gardens, right on Route 13, and they actually had a pretty good selection still of some things that were worth putting in your garden as far as annuals go. So I got these Tagetes, I think they're Tagetes erecta, which is called African violet, even though I think it's from Mexico. But this one is called White Swan, and there's 3 of them in each pot. And I think they're going to fill out this area nice. So I'm going to pop them in there and see what I end up thinking. There's a lot of root in here. These are pretty pot bound, but I think once I get them in here, they're going to be fine. So first, we're going to take out the lobelia that didn't make it through the heat wave. Get that down in there pretty good. I certainly think it's the right height. Now I've got to somehow get over to the other one without getting stung by bees that are in the lavender. I think I can do it. So even though this petunia is spread out quite a bit, it's really just one plant. It's really just coming from one root. So there's plenty of room in the back of this pot. And again, this was where there was a lobelia. I break all this up. So these roots spread out a little bit. All right. Now I'm going to back up over there and see if it looks all right. Okay, we're losing daylight, but let me just tell you what an improvement by adding that. I called it an African violet, but clearly I meant African marigold. Um, so that is white swan, I think I said, and it is an African marigold or a Mexican marigold. Either way, it's just added so much to the back of the container, and pretty soon you can't see it now, but that black and blue salvia will start blooming a little bit, and then we'll have that as a color. And I think overall the improvement just by adding that one higher plant brings this, I'm going to say, up to maybe an 8. And let me just say, if I ever again want to do anything symmetrical, I hope somebody talks me out of it in very stern voice and says absolutely not. It took me just now probably 20 minutes, and that's where the daylight went, trying to get the containers completely level, completely turned after I moved them around. I needed to get them so the flowers looked a little balanced, and it was back and forth and back and forth. And finally, Bill came out and helped me, so I could just stand here and shout out directions. But now I think it looks so much better. And those, I'm going to go over and do a little close up in of those marigolds because they're just so beautiful. Okay, so here we are, getting a little close up of this marigold. And you can see this is how dark it is when it first opens, and a whole bunch of buds still to open. Oh, and there's a bee on the salvia. You can see the bracts are very, very dark. They're almost black, and then it's going to open and the flowers are going to be blue. That's why it's called black and blue. And the calibrachoa. So you can't really see it from the front of the container, but also has that yellow color. And then we'll go over here, and we can see, oh, look at that one. I broke. That's just one of 4 that I broke while I was putting them in the pots and moving them around. And you can see the rest of what's in there. And then this lantana isn't even started blooming yet. I think it's white, and the rest of the flowers in here. And so I'm going to call that a job well done. I think it looks pretty fantastic now. And I'm going to go take the dogs for a walk.